Welcome to our video series on 10 easy and instant programming tips for your website. In this video, I'll show you how to create a customizable opt-in form. In this video, I'm going to talk you through some easy code you can add to your website so that you can customize pages on your site, and specifically, I'm going to use the example of taking an opt-in form from someone, taking an opt-in form from someone where you ask for the email address and also the name, or more generally the first name, and then after your visitor presses the Submit button, then they're taken to the next page, and that page is customized with their name. And you can also customize it with any other details that they may have entered too, if you want to, just by using these tactics. Okay, here's the structure of the initial web page, and it's a standard web page, HTML tag at the beginning, closing HTML tag, and a head section with nothing needed in the head section in this instance. And then, in the body of the document, the main content is a form, and this is general form code for taking an opt-in. And specifically in this case, I use the service Aweber.com to manage my opt-in lists. And they have a nice feature to automatically allow you to create the code needed to add an opt-in form to your site. So whichever service you're using, they should make it very easy to create this code, and you can, of course, customize it as you want. But just to quickly talk you through it. Okay, it's a form, of course, and form is the HTML tag for accepting inputs. And actually, if I quickly go to the browser, if you aren't familiar with any of these HTML tags, then I would suggest spending some time just doing a quick reference. Good sites, good free sites I often refer to, are htmlref.com. It's a great reference for HTML. And also htmldog.com. That's a good reference and tutorial site. But okay, back to the code. And here's the form accepting the inputs for the opt-in. And it ends here with the /form tag. And the action it's a custom action that basically sends the information submitted to Aweber, to their database. And there are some hidden inputs here which specify some details Aweber needs to know for adding the opt-ins to your email list. For example, the name of the list. And this is just a test list I've put together. Okay, and the next input is hidden as well, which means it's not publicly displayed, and it's to specify which page the visitor is sent to after they've entered their details. And actually, you need to enter the full address for this to work. So the full address in this instance will be http://www.demosite1.info/ and then thankyou.php. Okay, next line. And this is a custom field you can use if you want to understand exactly where your opt-ins are coming from. And most email opt-in service providers should have very similar fields and very similar setup. And you just need to spend some time going through their documentation to clarify how they work in relation to Aweber. But of course, if you're using Aweber as your service provider, you can match what I've got here almost exactly, just changing a few details, such as the name of your list, for example. Okay, then one particularly important field I should mention is this one. It's input type equals hidden. It's hidden as well, then name equals, and it has to be very specific. And this is specifically the name a Webber looks for. Meta _ forward _ vars, which is short for variables. So meta forward variables, effectively. And value equals 0. I'll demonstrate the important difference this makes in just a moment. I'll come back to that in just a minute. Then here's the standard HTML. Your first name and an input box. Your email address and an input box. And then the Submit button. Okay, so I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this to desktop, and let's just call it index.html. Okay, and next I'm going to create a page that the subscriber is sent to after they've entered their details. And the name is thankyou.php. So I have to quickly create that page. File New. Let's try that again. File New. And let's just create a very quick document. HTML, closing HTML, nothing in the head section in this instance, body section, let's try again, body section, closing body section, and let's just add a paragraph and say you have opted in. That will do in this instance, so let's save. And I need to change Save as Type to All Files, because otherwise it adds .txt to the end, which I don't want. And I'm doing this demonstration in Notepad, as you can see, which is the standard Windows text editor. But you can, of course, use any text editor you want. One I recommend is TextPad at textpad.com. Of course, you can use Dreamweaver or Front Page, but much of this you would need to do in code editing view as opposed to the visual view, of course. And let's call it thankyou.php. Save. Okay. Okay, I've opened up my FTP software, and on the left here is my desktop with the two files. And on the right is my server with my demo site. And I'm going to be doing this demonstration on demosite1.info. So let me double-click into that. And everything that's here already, I can just select and delete. So let's start with a completely empty site. Okay, that's done. So now let me select these two, and let me try again. Select these two, the index.html file, which is the opt-in page, and the thankyou.php page, which is, of course, the thank you page. Okay, that's done. So let's go to the browser. And if we go to demosite1.info, that's how our opt-in page looks. Not very exciting, but of course for your own page, you would spend some time making it look better visually, but it's purely functional for demonstration purposes. Okay, so let's go through the opt-in process. First name, Louis. For email address, I'm just going to use a Gmail account, a Google Mail account, which I don't really use anymore. Blog traffic at gmail.com. Subscribe, and it all goes through. Yes, it tells me I've opted in. What's particularly important in this example is everything after the web address. There's the web address, and then the question mark, and then you get all this information, which is basically telling you, again, everything that they entered into the form. And this is very important for what I'm going to, and actually you can see it includes all the hidden fields as well. And this is very important for the demonstration I'm going to come to in just a moment. However, let me open up, well, here's thankyou.php. I want to open up index.html again. And okay, I have the open box displayed, all files, index.html, and okay, here's the important bit, the meta forward variables hidden field. And of course it may have a different name, whichever service provider you're using, but this is the one Aweber stipulates, the name Aweber stipulates. So if we change the value from 1 to 0, so 1 effectively stands for yes, 0 stands for no. If we change that to 0, save, go to FTP, and upload the updated index.html file, back to the browser, and let's go back. Okay. And actually, if I enter these details again, I might get a warning message telling me I've already subscribed. But let's see if that happens. Okay, subscribe. And actually, excuse me, I made a slight mistake. Let me go back. I need to really refresh this page, because at the moment, if I do a view source, I'm still seeing the old version, you see, with the value equals 1. So I need to do a full refresh. Okay, so now, if I do view source, I should be seeing the latest version of the web page. Yes, value equals 0. So let's opt in again. Louis, blogtraffic@gmail.com. And okay, I've opted in. And importantly, this time, there are none of the details, because I told it by changing the value from 1 to 0 not to bring all those values forward. And now once again, that was just to demonstrate the size we want this line in the opt-in box bit. If we change it back to 1 for yes, okay, save and then upload, back to FTP, and upload the index file. Overwrite, back to the browser, and let's go back to the opt-in page and refresh again. And let's quickly enter my details again. Subscribe. And again, I get sent to this page. And all the variables, all the information from the form, is brought forward as part of the web address, as you can see. And that's very important for what I'm going to demonstrate. Okay, I have the thankyou.php file open in Notepad, and here's the important part. Here's the code which actually customizes the page. I have it in clipboard memory, so I'm going to paste it in. Okay, and that's it at the simplest level. And as you can see, I've called the file, well, it ends in .php, which is telling my web server, my web host, that it's a PHP file. Therefore, because it's a PHP file, any PHP code it finds, and PHP is a web programming language, so any PHP code it finds, it runs. It recognizes it and runs it. And of course, it's important to know that your web host should support PHP, and the vast majority do, but check with your web host whether it does. And even if your web host doesn't, you'll very easily find an affordable web host that does, because as I mentioned, the vast majority do. Okay, so here's the code, and basically, okay, let me change this a slight bit. The line that says, you have opted in, if we change it to thank you, and then I want to add the name. So here's Okay, let me take this section and cut it and move it down here. Edit, paste. Okay, and then I want to add the name. I want to say, for example, "Thank you, Louie," and then finish the sentence with, "You have opted in." So opening paragraph tag, then thank you, and then we want to add the name. So here's where the PHP code starts, and it's standard PHP opening code, which is, as you can see, opening pointy bracket, or whatever you want to call it, question mark PHP. And your PHP code, when it closes, will have question mark closing pointed bracket. So then the code is echo, which basically means print, send this to the screen. So echo, and actually let me just get rid of this hello. I don't need that. All I should need is echo, and then this funny looking code, which is $, underscore, get, all in uppercase, square opening bracket, single quote mark, name, single quote mark, closing square bracket, and then semicolon. And this name is the name of the variable which was brought forward from the opt-in box. And okay, if I go back to the web browser, and let's go back, actually I don't need to do that. Let me go back to the code. But basically, sorry about that, I paused the video. I wasn't sure of the best way to demonstrate this, but it's a lot clearer in the first place if I show you the code. So here's the web code of the opt-in box, of the opt-in page. Here's the opt-in page, and here's the code for that page. And all the hidden inputs are here, which have all the information, which lists what the person's subscribing to, where they get forwarded to, and so on. The other inputs are the actual opt-in boxes. So input type equals text, the text box. This is just standard HTML. Name equals name, and this is important, the name you give this box. And okay, your first name, it's asking for your first name, and the input box name is name. And the reason I wanted to specifically demonstrate that is because if we now go back to the PHP code, that's what you enter here. Because basically what the visitor enters in the input box, which has the name of name in this instance, that's whatever they enter there is then entered here by referencing it by using the word, by using the form name, the input box name of name. It might be a little bit clearer if I'd called the input box something else rather than keep saying the input box name of name, but what I'm trying to demonstrate is that they enter their name into this input box, and the name of this input box, I've happened to call it name. And that's what you have to reference. Name is what you have to reference in the PHP code. And actually, I can demonstrate this even more if There's the other one. The email input box is called from. So let me come to that in a second. So first of all, thank you, and then I should add the name. So it should say, thank you, Louie. And then let me add a full stop and a space. And then I could say, you have opted in with the email address. Okay, let me move this down. And then we want to add more PHP code again. PHP, question mark, closing bracket, and then echo, $, underscore, get, opening square bracket, single quote mark, and then double check. It was from? Yes, from. So, okay, from, then closing single square bracket, semicolon. So it should say, "Thank you, Louis. You have opted in with the email address and whatever I entered." And then, of course, the full stop here, and then the closing paragraph mark. So let's save and upload that. Okay, if I upload the PHP file, okay, so I can close this window, and let's go back here. So here's the opt-in box. Let me refresh, the opt-in page, rather. Let me refresh, and again, first name, email address. So now it should, all this information in this opt-in box should be brought forward to the thank you page. And then the thank you page should take part of that information to customize the page. So, okay, there are the details. Let's subscribe. And it works. You see that all this information is brought forward, and then the PHP code takes what it needs from here, using the references I talked you through, of name and from, and it says, "Thank you, Louis. You have opted in with the email address blogtraffic@gmail.com. So that's how I've used PHP in this instance, using a combination of bringing forward all the information entered in the opt-in box, and then using PHP to get snippets of that information so you can customize the message presented. And if we go back to the PHP code, just to quickly talk you through it again, so as you can see, I've put that all on a single line with the opening paragraph tag and the closing paragraph tag here. And that basically keeps everything on the same line. And okay, there's our text. And whenever I want to insert customized information from the opt-in page, I use this code. Opening PHP code, closing PHP code, and within that, echo, which basically means send to the screen, and get, $, underscore, and get in all caps. It's basically saying get the value of name, which in this instance is the name I entered into the input box. And here, you have opted in with the email address, and then send to the screen the value entered into the from input box. So the input box with the name of from. So that's how you can use email opt-in service providers, and maybe even email opt-in software. But I'm not really familiar with that. But you can use email opt-in service providers and some very easy to put together PHP code to customize your thank you pages that your visitors and your opt-in subscribers see.